I'm Sandra Mathers from A Plus Education, and I'm here to talk to the authors of the Early Childhood Environment Rating Scale Extension, or as it's more commonly known, the ECERS-E. I'd like to introduce Professor Kathy Silver, Professor Siraj-Blatchford and Brenda Taggart. During this clip, the authors are going to talk about the development of the scale and its use for research and for developing practice. So, Brenda, could you start by telling us a little bit about how the scales were developed?
Thank you, Sandra. Yes, the three authors are also principal investigators of the Effective Preschool, Primary and Secondary Education Project, or as it's commonly known, EPSE. And EPSE was a longitudinal study which was following the progress and development of about 3,000 children since 1997, and it's funded by the UK government. EPSE had a particular focus on the benefits, long-term benefits of preschool education. So at the time the children were in the settings, we needed to have a measure of quality of those settings the children were attending. Of course, at the time, the gold standard was the ECERS-R, and we used the ECERS-R very successfully on the project. But what we thought about at the time was that the ECERS-R really wasn't sufficiently sensitive to what at that time was a growing interest in the UK about emerging literacy, emerging numeracy, emerging science, and how those three curriculum subjects were supporting young children's thinking. So together we developed the ECERS-E, which was to complement the ECERS-R, and the ECERS-E was developed very much with the support and help from our Chapel Hill colleagues, for which we're very grateful. So the ECERS-E has that particular focus. It has 4 subscales. One is looking at early literacy, one is looking at early mathematic development, the third is looking at science and the environment, and the fourth focuses on diversity. And by diversity, we mean issues associated with gender, with race, and with really supporting children as individuals. So that's really how the ECERS-E emerged, and together with the ECERS-R, it was used on our longitudinal study to look at the quality of the preschool our children were in.
Thank you, Brenda. You said that the scale was developed to be used as part of research. Kathy, I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Sandra, scores on the ECERS-E have been shown to predict children's development in cognitive development, language development, social and behavioral development. There have been several studies now across Europe where quality assessments have been made in preschool centers in different countries in Europe. And then children who've been attending these preschool centers have been followed up 1 year after they went to school, 2 years, 3 years, even 9 years. The largest of all these studies where the ECERS-E quality scores have been shown to predict children's development is the effective provision of primary and secondary education and preschool that Brenda talked about. And in that study, more than 3,000 children attended preschool centers, and quality assessments were made on the ECERS-R and on the ECERS-E. The children were followed up when they got to school, and here the total ECERS-E score predicted pre-reading, which is phonological awareness and letter recognition, nonverbal reasoning, and also general mathematical concepts. The specific discrete subscales, the literacy subscale, not surprisingly, predicted children's pre-literacy. The mathematics subscale predicted children's nonverbal reasoning. And very interesting, the diversity subscale, which takes all 3 areas of development, literacy, numeracy, and science, and shows how the provision in an individual center is tailored to children from different cultures, children of different gender, and children of different abilities. And the diversity subscale predicts pre-reading because it shows how all of the activities and materials in a center work together to support the development of literacy, and it also predicts mathematical concepts.
Thank you, Kathy. Now we've heard a little about how the ECERS-E has been used for research. I wondered if Iram, you could tell us a little bit about how it's been used for developing practice and improving quality.
Although the scale was primarily produced for research purposes, it's been enormously helpful in practice development and in regulation at local authority level. Local authorities in England are the 150 regions that provide education and other types of services for children. When we first developed the ECERS-E, we used it in a number of centres, over 40 centres, to support the validity of the instrument. And we were overwhelmed by the feedback that often heads of centres gave us about the use of the scale in terms of developing staff knowledge, staff skills and staff expertise in strengthening quality in their centre. And often staff started with looking at individual subscales, looking at individual items within them, and the discussion around particular indicators, particularly those indicators around the good and excellent, were very, very supportive of practitioners' thinking and often changed practice in centres. Well, since then, the instrument has come on in leaps and bounds. It's being used in well over a third, probably half of local authorities in England. It's been used to train over 1,000 practitioners, and several regions are using it for audit purposes, for self-regulation, and their own training then takes them into centres to improve practice with the practitioners themselves.
Okay, thank you, Iram. I'd like to thank the three authors for giving us this insight into the development and the use of the ECERS-E. If you would like further information, then you can visit the website of the UK ECERS Network at www.ecersuk.org. If you'd like to buy a copy of the scale, then you can find that at the publishers Trentham in the UK and the publishers Teachers College Press in the United States. In terms of training, we've already trained many researchers, practitioners and local authorities in the UK, and training is beginning to be available in the United States. Thank you.
In the UK, the ECERS-E is available from Trentham Books, www.trentham-books.co.uk. In the USA and rest of the world, versions in English are available from Teachers College Press, www.tcpress.com/ers.html. Contact TCP for translated versions.